Have you ever looked at someone else's life and felt that twist in your chest? The one that says, "Why not me?" Have you ever scrolled through social media and caught yourself comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel? What if I told you that feeling isn't your enemy, but your greatest opportunity for growth? Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here we don't just talk about becoming better, we live it. Today we're going to take something that most people avoid or deny, jealousy, and turn it into fuel for your transformation. Let's break it down into 5 powerful steps that will help you go from better to better. 1. Acknowledging your true feelings. The first step is brutal honesty with yourself. Too many people bury jealousy under fake positivity, pretending they're happy for others when inside they're boiling with resentment. They post congratulations online, smile in person, but at night they replay the comparison over and over in their head. This quiet, hidden bitterness grows like mold in a damp corner, unseen but spreading. Denying it only makes it grow in the shadows, because emotions you refuse to acknowledge don't vanish, they find other, often destructive ways to express themselves. Instead, call it out. Name the emotion. Say, "Yes, I feel jealous right now." It might sting to admit it, but this isn't weakness, it's self-awareness. And self-awareness is the foundation of all personal growth. You can't fix what you won't face. Think of it like diagnosing an illness. Pretending it's not there won't cure it. In fact, naming it immediately strips away some of its mystery and control. The moment you say, "I am jealous," you move from being unconsciously driven by it to consciously observing it. When you acknowledge your jealousy without judgment, you remove its power to secretly control you. This means you stop acting from a place of hidden insecurity, the subtle digs, the passive-aggressive comments, the silent withdrawal from friends who seem to be doing better. Instead, you become an observer of your own inner life. You start to see the emotion for what it is, a signal, not a sentence. Jealousy doesn't mean you're a bad person, it means something in you is longing, and that longing deserves to be understood. It's important to remember that honesty with yourself is not about indulging in self-pity or self-loathing. It's not about saying, "I'm jealous, therefore I'm inadequate." It's about saying, "I'm jealous, therefore I'm learning something about myself." Maybe you want more recognition. Maybe you crave more freedom. Maybe you desire the discipline or courage you see in someone else. Once you admit it, you can explore it. And exploration is the start of transformation. This first step is uncomfortable because it dismantles the illusion of constant positivity that so many people cling to. But false positivity is brittle. It shatters the moment you're triggered. Authentic emotional honesty, on the other hand, is flexible and resilient. It can bend under the weight of uncomfortable truths without breaking. That's why acknowledging your true feelings isn't an act of weakness, it's an act of inner strength. 2. Reframing negative thoughts. Once you've faced your feelings, it's time to rewrite the story you're telling yourself. Jealousy is a master storyteller, but its tales are often full of distortions. It whispers that someone else's win automatically means your loss. It says there's not enough success, love, or opportunity to go around, so when they rise, you must inevitably fall. This scarcity mindset turns life into a zero-sum game, where every other person becomes a competitor instead of a collaborator. But life isn't a zero-sum game. The truth is, someone else's success can expand the possibilities for everyone. If a person in your field achieves something remarkable, it doesn't close the door. It shows the door exists. Instead of thinking, "They've taken my chance," you can think, "They've shown me what's possible." This shift transforms the energy of jealousy into the energy of curiosity. You go from stewing in resentment to asking questions like, what can I learn from this? And how can I carve my own version of that achievement? Reframing is about turning "I'll never have that" into "I'm inspired to work toward that." This isn't toxic positivity. It's intentional mental training. It's choosing to see reality in a way that empowers rather than paralyzes you. You are not pretending the feeling of jealousy doesn't exist. You're simply giving it a new purpose. You're redirecting its sharpness into focus. The same emotion that once kept you stuck now becomes fuel for action. To reframe effectively, you have to challenge the narrative your mind automatically jumps to. If your inner voice says, "They're better than me," respond with, "They're showing me a skill I can develop." If it says, "It's too late for me," respond with, "It's never too late to start my own journey." This isn't denying reality, it's about widening it. You're training your brain to see opportunities instead of threats, and that shift changes how you feel and how you act. Over time, this mental rewiring changes your relationship to envy entirely. What once felt like an emotional prison becomes a compass pointing toward what matters most to you. Every time you notice jealousy rising, it's a signal to pause, reframe, and take a step forward. That's how you slowly replace resentment with motivation and comparison with confidence. 3. Learning from those you admire. Jealousy points to something you want, and that's valuable information. The question is, are you willing to learn from the people you envy? Most people aren't. They either avoid those they admire out of discomfort, or they criticize them to feel better about themselves. But if you're willing to put your pride aside, the very people who trigger your jealousy can become your greatest teachers. Instead of resenting them, study them. Observe their habits. How do they start their day? How do they make decisions? How do they carry themselves in public and in private? Are they disciplined in ways you are not? Do they take risks you've been avoiding? Every outward success is built on patterns and choices that are often invisible unless you look closely. The more you watch with an open, learning mindset, the more you'll see that their achievements didn't appear overnight, they were built piece by piece. Success leaves clues, and if you're paying attention, those clues can become your roadmap. You might notice that the person you admire spends hours honing their craft while you only dabble when motivation strikes. You might see that they network consistently instead of waiting for opportunities to come to them. These observations aren't meant to make you feel smaller, they're meant to reveal exactly where you can grow. The discomfort you feel is simply the friction between where you are and where you want to be. Make their achievements a case study for your own potential, not a weapon to beat yourself down. The worst thing you can do is turn someone else's success into evidence that you're failing. Instead, use it as proof that progress is possible. Let their discipline challenge your excuses. Let their courage challenge your fears. Let their focus challenge your distractions. And remember, you don't have to copy their exact path, you just have to extract the principles that will help you build your own. When you commit to learning instead of resenting, jealousy transforms from a source of bitterness into a source of growth. You stop seeing others as competition and start seeing them as inspiration in human form. This doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, the very people who once triggered your insecurity can become the spark that fuels your evolution. And that's the quiet magic of turning envy into education. 4. Creating your action plan. Awareness without action is useless. Once you know what you want and have learned from others, it's time to set concrete steps. Reflection is the spark, but it is not the fire. The fire comes from movement. Too many people get stuck in the awareness stage, endlessly analyzing, reading, and watching others succeed without taking that first uncomfortable leap. You can sit in a library for years, consuming knowledge, but until you apply it, it's little more than mental decoration. The key is to transform your insight into motion, to make your self-awareness a working blueprint for progress. Define your goals with precision, not vagueness. I want to be successful is a wish, not a plan. What does success look like to you? Is it financial freedom, physical fitness, a creative achievement, or inner peace? Break it down to a measurable target, something you can track and evaluate. Once you define it, break that big goal into smaller, achievable milestones. If your dream is to write a book, your first milestone might be 1 chapter, then 5, then 10. If your aim is financial stability, start with saving a small percentage each month before trying to build large investments. And don't forget deadlines. A goal without a timeline is just a fantasy. Jealousy without direction becomes bitterness, but jealousy paired with a plan becomes motivation. This is the alchemy of transformation, taking an emotion that eats away at your energy and turning it into fuel for action. When you see someone ahead of you in life, instead of dwelling on how far they've gone, ask yourself, what's my next step to get closer to my vision? It's not about matching their journey, it's about advancing on your own. You don't need to run at their speed, you just need to keep moving forward. Every time you feel that twinge of envy, let it remind you of the next step on your path, not how far you have to go. This requires reframing the emotion entirely. Instead of interpreting it as a sign of your inadequacy, see it as a signal of your desire. It's proof that you care about achieving something. Think of it as your inner compass pointing toward the life you want to build. Over time, your plan will become your shield, a way to stay focused when distractions or comparisons threaten to pull you off track. Execution matters more than intensity. 100 small, steady actions will outperform one giant burst of effort followed by burnout. Build daily habits around your plan. Commit to incremental growth. Show up even on days when motivation feels absent, because consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds results. It's in the quiet, unglamorous days of effort where real transformation happens. 5. Becoming a source of inspiration. Here's the final transformation, turning the energy you once wasted on resentment into a force that lifts others up. True fulfillment doesn't come solely from reaching your own goals. It comes from knowing that your journey has helped others move closer to theirs. The person who once looked at others with bitterness can now become the person who inspires hope. This is where the cycle changes, and instead of jealousy spreading, encouragement does. When you begin achieving your own goals, don't guard your secrets. Share your journey, mentor someone, offer encouragement. Too many operate in scarcity, fearing that if they help someone else, their own progress will slow. But growth is not a finite resource. There's no shortage of success to go around. In fact, the more you help others, the more you reinforce your own discipline, knowledge, and character. Remember, the same way someone's success once triggered your jealousy, your success will spark emotions in others. Some will feel inspired, others will feel competitive or envious. You cannot control their reactions, but you can control the energy you put into the world. If you choose humility and generosity, you plant seeds of respect. If you choose arrogance and exclusion, you plant seeds of resentment. The choice will shape your legacy. But you have the power to be the kind of example that fuels hope instead of comparison. You can openly share the struggles behind your achievements, showing that your journey wasn't effortless. When people see the discipline, setbacks, and perseverance that went into your progress, they're less likely to idolize you and more likely to believe in their own potential. This is how inspiration becomes contagious, not through perfection, but through authenticity. In the end, being a source of inspiration is not about positioning yourself as a flawless role model. It's about being a living proof that transformation is possible, that jealousy can be transmuted into drive, and that drive can blossom into generosity. You show others that the emotion that once held them down can be the very thing that propels them forward, and that helping others climb does not make your mountain any smaller. In fact, it makes the view at the top far more rewarding. Jealousy is not a curse, it's a compass. It points you toward the life you want, but only if you're brave enough to follow it. Acknowledge your feelings, reframe your thinking, learn from the best, take action, inspire others. That's how you turn envy into evolution. So next time that familiar feeling rises up, smile. You've just been given a signal, and you know exactly what to do with it.